Before we begin, if stories about real love, real mistakes, and real consequences hit home for you, take a second to subscribe. It helps more than you think. The night I broke, my husband wasn't loud. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just a room full of people, and one sentence I can never take back. I still remember the way Daniel stood beside me at my sister's engagement dinner, one hand resting on the small of my back like he always did, steady and familiar. He wore the same navy blazer he'd had for years, the one I used to tease him about because he refused to replace it. He smelled like soap and the faintest trace of coffee. Home. That's what he always smelled like. We've been married 8 years. Not perfect years, but honest ones, or so I told myself. Daniel was dependable in a way that felt invisible until you lost it. He remembered trash days, sent good morning texts even when we fought, kissed my forehead before sleep like it was muscle memory. But somewhere along the way, I started mistaking stability for boredom. Earlier that evening, my phone had buzzed under the table. A message from Mark. "You still mad at me?" I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. Wine flowed. Laughter rose. Someone joked about marriage, about how men never really grow up. I laughed too loudly. I felt watched by my family, by Mark across the table, by myself. Then my sister's fiancé asked Daniel, smiling, "So what's the secret? How you keep her happy?" Daniel chuckled, glanced at me with that soft pride I used to love, and said, "I just try to show up every day." Something ugly twisted in my chest. Maybe it was guilt, maybe resentment, maybe fear that I wasn't who he thought I was anymore. I lifted my glass and said, smiling, "Honestly, he's lucky I'm low maintenance. He wouldn't survive with a woman who actually needed passion." The table went quiet. Someone laughed awkwardly. Daniel didn't. I watched the words land. Saw his smile freeze, then fade. His eyes met mine, confused first, then wounded. Like I'd slapped him where no one could see the bruise, but everyone felt it. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't just embarrassed him. I'd changed something in him. After that night, Daniel changed in quiet ways that were worse than anger. He didn't bring it up in the car ride home. He didn't ask why I'd said what I did. He just stared through the windshield, jaw tight, hands fixed at 10, and too like he was afraid of letting go. When we got home, he kissed our doorframe out of habit. Something he'd done since we bought the house, then went straight to bed without waiting for me. That's when the distance started. He stopped touching me in passing. No hand on my waist in the kitchen. No brushing his thumb against mine on the couch. His good morning text became shorter. Practical. Grocery lists. Reminders. Weather updates. Like we were co-workers sharing a lease. And then there was my phone. Mark's messages became more frequent, sliding into the silence Daniel left behind. "You deserve more than being taken for granted. I'd never talk about you like that in public." Each message felt like relief and poison at the same time. One night, Daniel picked up my phone from the counter to move it away from a spilled glass of water. I watched his eyes flicker, just for a second, when Mark's name lit up the screen. "Who's Mark?" he asked, voice calm, too calm. "A co-worker," I said quickly, too quickly. He nodded. "Okay." That was it. No follow-up. No argument. But later that night, I heard him in the bathroom longer than usual. When he came back, his eyes were red. Not angry. Hurt. Like he'd already connected us I was pretending didn't exist. The real fracture happened a week later. I forgot to turn my phone on silent during dinner. A message preview flashed across the screen. Last night meant something to me. Daniel read it. I know he did. I saw his breath catch. He didn't shout, didn't throw the phone. He simply pushed his plate away and stood up. "Did you sleep with him?" he asked. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I could have lied. I should have lied. Instead, I said nothing. Daniel nodded slowly, like he'd expected it all along. Then he said something I wasn't ready for. "I think I stayed too long loving someone who stopped seeing me." He grabbed his keys and walked toward the door. And that's when I realized this wasn't a fight. It was an ending. Daniel didn't come home that night. He didn't answer my calls either. Not the first 10. Not the ones where my voice cracked and I started saying his name like a prayer I didn't believe in anymore. Around 3 a.m., he finally texted, "I'm safe. I need space." Space. The word felt harmless. It wasn't. When he came back 2 days later, he looked older, like something inside him had folded in on itself and stayed that way. He moved through the house quietly, packing a bag with the same care he used when he traveled for work. Neat, controlled, final. "I never cheated," he said suddenly, without looking at me. "Not once, even when you stopped choosing me." That hurt more than yelling would have. I tried to explain that I felt unseen, that the humiliation at the dinner was a joke gone wrong, that Mark didn't matter the way Daniel did. Every word sounded in the moment it left my mouth. "You humiliated me," Daniel said, finally meeting my eyes. "Not because of what you said, but because you said it knowing I'd never do that to you." He paused, swallowed. Since that night, I couldn't unsee it. The way you looked at me, like I was enough but not wanted. That's when I noticed his eyes. They weren't angry. They weren't even sad anymore. They were distant, resigned. The eyes of a man who had already mourned something while still standing next to it. Mark texted later that evening. I didn't reply. I blocked him. It felt performative. Too late to matter. Daniel left the next morning. Weeks passed. Friends stopped asking questions. The house stayed quiet. I replayed that dinner over and over. The wine glass in my hand. The smile on my face. The way one careless sentence rewrote our future. I learned something brutal and simple. Love isn't just about loyalty behind closed doors. It's about protection in public. About choosing your partner when it counts, not when it's convenient. I broke my husband where it hurt most, his dignity. And even now, that's the one thing I know I can never fix. If this story stirred something in you, share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because some lessons deserve to be heard before it's too late.